I was getting coffee the other day when someone showed me their phone. Have you seen this? They asked. It was a Truth Social post from the President of the United States calling Bruce Springsteen a, quote, dried out prune with atrophied skin. I stared at it, read it again, and said out loud, did the president just critique a rock star's skin? And then it hit me. This isn't new. This has been happening for months. The President of the United States, the person we trust with nuclear codes, with commanding our military, with representing us on the world stage, has been throwing temper tantrums like a toddler who got told no at the grocery store. Now, before you roll your eyes and think Dave's just being partisan again, hear me out. Because I'm not talking about policy disagreements. I'm not talking about whether you like his tax plan or his immigration approach. I'm talking about behavior. Observable, documented, utterly childish behavior from the highest office in the land. When did we decide this was acceptable from anyone holding this position? Because whether you voted for him or not, whether you love his policies or hate them, I think we can all agree on one thing. We don't let toddlers run nuclear-armed superpowers for a reason. So let me show you what I'm seeing and why I want you to ask yourself, should I accept this behavior from any president, regardless of party?
Hello, friend.
Hello, friend. Welcome back. Let me walk you through what's happened between January 20th and November 7th of this year. I'm going to go fast because honestly, there's so much it's hard to keep track. February 21st, Trump fires General C.Q. Brown Jr., Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the highest ranking military officer in the country. Brown's 4-year term was supposed to run until September 2027. He's the first chairman since 2007 to not serve a full term. The reason? Well, according to Democratic Senator Jack Reed, he calls it a political loyalty test. On the same day, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth fires Admiral Lisa Franchetti, Chief of Naval Operations, and General James Slife, Air Force Vice Chief of Staff. 3 top military leaders, one day, because loyalty. March 5th. Trump posts on Truth Social that he's, quote, seriously considering revoking the citizenship of Rosie O'Donnell because she criticized his policies on a late-night show. Now, there's no legal basis for this. You can't revoke citizenship for political speech. But apparently we're just announcing presidential revenge fantasies on social media now. Cool. Real cool. March 14th and 27th. 2 major law firms, Paul Weiss and Wilmer Hale, get hit with sanctions, suspended security clearances, and terminated federal contracts. Their crime? Well, Paul Weiss did pro bono work on cases against Trump. Wilmer Hale employed Robert Mueller during the special counsel investigation. So if you're keeping score at home, being a lawyer who once worked on a case involving the president is now grounds for institutional punishment. I'm sure that won't have a chilling effect on the legal profession at all. May 9th, Newark Mayor Ross Baraka gets arrested while trying to conduct oversight in an ICE detention facility. Baraka had been vocally critical of conditions there. He calls it, quote, an insane abuse of power. The administration's response? Quote, there will likely be more arrests coming. Nothing says we respect local government oversight like arresting the mayor for showing up. May 14th. And here's where we get back to Bruce Springsteen. The boss calls Trump, quote, corrupt, incompetent, and treasonous during a concert in Manchester, England. Trump, demonstrating the restraint and dignity we expect from the leader of the free world, responds by calling Springsteen, quote, highly overrated, not talented, a pushy, obnoxious jerk. And then, because apparently we're doing skincare criticism now, a dried out prune with atrophied skin. I'm sorry, but what? The President of the United States is out here like a Real Housewives cast member giving beauty advice. And here's the kicker. Trump ends that post by saying Springsteen, quote, ought to keep his mouth shut until he gets back into the country. Then we'll all see how it goes for him. What does that even mean? Is Trump going to confiscate his guitar? Make him listen to Nickelback on repeat? What's the threat here? June 1st. After a negative poll in swing states, Trump goes on a social media tirade calling dissenting Republicans traitors and threatening to primary anyone who doesn't show, quote, full alignment with him. Full alignment. Like we're adjusting the tracking on a 1987 VCR. Mid-June, the White House sends new hiring guidelines to federal agencies that include what critics call a presidential loyalty test. Candidates have to answer 4 questions about their patriotism and support for the president's policies. By this point, the administration has already fired or pushed out more than 100,000 federal workers. 100,000. That's not draining the swamp. That's carpet bombing it and building a Trump tower in the crater. June 11th, a DOJ memo states that the civil division shall prioritize and maximally pursue denaturalization proceedings in all cases permitted by law. Translation: we're going to strip citizenship from as many people as legally possible. You know, normal democracy stuff. June 25th, Trump calls New York City mayoral candidate Zohran Mamdani, who, by the way, ends up winning, a communist lunatic on Truth Social. July 2nd, after he wins the New York City primary and pledges to resist federal ICE deportations, Trump says, and I quote, well then, we'll have to arrest him. Arrest the mayor of New York City for having a different policy opinion about how to run his own city. What's next? Arresting the mayor of Seattle for inadequate parking enforcement? On the same day, literally the same day, Trump gets into a public fight with Elon Musk over spending bills. Musk criticizes the budget. Trump threatens to deport him and posts, we'll have to take a look. We might have to put Doge on Elon. Let me say that again. Trump threatens to sick the Department of Government Efficiency, which Musk ran for him, on Elon Musk. It's like threatening to ground your teenager by taking away the car they bought with their own money that they let you borrow, that has their name on the title. Musk's response: so tempting to escalate this. So tempting. But I will refrain for now. Followed by, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude. And honestly, when Elon Musk is the adult in the room, we've entered a strange new timeline. July 16th, Trump calls his own supporters, quote, weaklings, because they're upset about his handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation files. He posts, quote, "Let these weaklings continue forward and do the Democrats' work. I don't want their support anymore." Your own supporters. Imagine running a restaurant and screaming at your regulars, "You're all weaklings. I don't want your business." That's not leadership. That's a breakdown. July 20th, Trump posts an AI-generated video showing Barack Obama being arrested by FBI agents, handcuffed, dressed in an orange jumpsuit, and thrown in a jail cell. No disclaimer that it's fake, no context. Just the sitting president sharing deepfake propaganda about a former president. Because nothing says stable governance like posting AI revenge porn of one of your predecessors. Tired of this list yet? Yeah, me too. But here's the thing. We have more examples to go. And these just scratch the surface. And we're still letting him act this way.
Hello, friend.
September 29th. Hours, literal hours after meeting with Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries at the White House to discuss a looming government shutdown, Trump posts a racist AI-generated video depicting Jeffries wearing a sombrero with mariachi music playing in a deepfake Schumer voice saying, "Nobody likes Democrats anymore." Let me paint this picture. Trump shakes their hands, sits across from them, negotiates. Then the second they leave, he's in the Oval Office uploading racist memes like a 14-year-old with a burner Instagram account. Jeffrey responds, quote, "Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video." Schumer's response is even better. Quote, "If you think your shutdown is a joke, it just proves what we all know. You can't negotiate. You can only throw tantrums." Mid-October, Trump posts at 12:38 a.m. on a Sunday claiming the Biden FBI placed 274 agents into a crowd on January 6th and ends with, quote, "Do something." A few things here. First, Trump was president on January 6, 2021, not Biden. Second, what exactly is he telling 10.8 million followers to do at 12:38 in the morning? This is the digital equivalent of a toddler screaming, "I'm not tired," while actively melting down past bedtime. October 20th, Trump posts another AI-generated video, this time mocking protesters responding to a Supreme Court decision. Social media users accuse him of having the maturity and decorum of a 12-year-old boy. And honestly, that feels generous. Most 12-year-olds probably have better impulse control. November 4th, Election Day. As voters head to the polls to choose New York City's next mayor, Trump posts, "Any Jewish person that votes for Mamdani is a proven and self-professed Jew hater and is a stupid person." Election Day. The President of the United States is calling American citizens stupid for voting for a candidate he doesn't like. Amy Spittelnick, CEO of the Jewish Council for Public Affairs, responds, quote, "President Trump has repeatedly labeled Jews who do not vote his way as disloyal, stupid, or worse." Okay, pause. I just listed off 15 plus documented incidents in 9 months, and I didn't even include all of them. There are so many more. And I can hear some of you saying, "Come on, Dave, you're just cherry picking things that make him look bad." Maybe. So let me ask you this. Would you hire someone who behaves this way to manage a Wendy's? Seriously. Imagine you're interviewing a candidate to run your local fast food franchise, and during the background check, you discover that in the last 9 months, they've Fired 3 employees for not being loyal enough. Called a customer a dried out prune with atrophied skin because the customer said the fries were soggy. Threatened to, quote, do something about the Burger King across the street. Posted fake videos of the previous franchise owner being arrested. Called their own employees weaklings for questioning a menu decision. Sent late night all caps emails to the entire staff at 12:38 a.m. screaming, "Do something!" You wouldn't hire that person. You'd quietly escort them out of the building and maybe call someone. But we're not talking about managing a Wendy's. We're talking about managing the nuclear football, the world's largest military, and the global economy.
Hello, friend.
Now, let me show you what happens when this behavior isn't just embarrassing. It's actually dangerous. Here's the thing about toddlers. They don't govern, they react. And when you put a reactive person in charge of the federal government, you don't get strategy. You get revenge dressed up as policy. Let me tell you about James Comey. In September, former FBI Director James Comey gets indicted by a federal grand jury for allegedly giving false testimony to Congress. The indictment comes days after Trump publicly urged Attorney General Pam Bondi to prosecute Comey in social media posts that were later deleted. But here's the important part. The part that should concern everyone. Trump initially ordered Eric Siebert, a well-regarded Republican U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia, to investigate and seek charges against Comey. Siebert did his job. He looked at the evidence and he came back with a conclusion. There's nothing here. Zero evidence to pursue criminal charges. So Trump fired him. Then Trump appointed Lindsay Halligan, his former personal lawyer, to the position. 4 days into the job, she secured the indictment. Now, maybe Comey is guilty. Maybe there's evidence that I'm not seeing, but here's what we can observe. Trump publicly demanded Comey be prosecuted. A career Republican prosecutor said there wasn't enough evidence. Trump replaced him with a loyalist. The loyalist immediately delivered the indictment that Trump wanted. That's not the rule of law. That's shopping for a prosecutor who'll give you the answer you want. It's like getting a second opinion from a doctor because the first one said you're fine, then getting a third opinion, then a fourth, until someone finally says, sure, you need surgery, just to get you to stop asking. The same thing happened with James, the New York Attorney General who successfully sued Trump for fraud. In October, James gets indicted for alleged bank fraud. The charges? When she bought a house in Virginia, prosecutors claim she told her mortgage broker it would be a second home to get a lower interest rate. But then she used it as a rental property. The alleged improper gain? $18,933 over the life of the loan. Now, I'm not saying mortgage fraud is okay, but let me put this in perspective. Federal prosecutors don't normally pursue cases this minor, like ever. The amount of resources it takes to bring a federal case, grand jury time, investigators, lawyers, means they typically only go after cases that are either extremely high value or extremely egregious. $18,933 over the life of a mortgage loan is neither. But Letitia James isn't a normal defendant. She's the person who beat Trump in court. And Trump publicly demanded she be prosecuted. And career prosecutors said no. And then Trump's handpicked prosecutor said yes. James's lawyer, Abby Lowell, put it perfectly. Quote, when a president can publicly direct charges to be filed against someone, when it was reported that career attorneys concluded none were warranted, it makes a serious attack on the rule of law. And here's my question. If you're a federal prosecutor right now, what are you learning? You're learning that if the president wants someone charged and you say there's not enough evidence, you might lose your job. And if you deliver what the president wants, regardless of the evidence, you get to keep it. That's not prosecutorial discretion. That's a loyalty test with legal consequences. And it gets worse. By June, the administration had fired or pushed out more than 100,000 federal workers. It instituted loyalty tests for new hires. It screened 160 National Security Council staffers for personal loyalty to the president. It fired the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, the chief of naval operations, and the Air Force vice chief of staff. Susan Glazer from The New Yorker nails it. Donald Trump has made it very clear that he wants people who are loyal to him personally and not to the office, not to the Constitution. Now, I can already hear the response. Good, the federal government is bloated. It needs to be cleaned out. Maybe. But here's the problem with firing 100,000 people and replacing them with loyalty tests. You're not creating a more efficient government. You're creating a government full of people who are terrified to say no. And you know what happens when a toddler is surrounded by people who never say no? They throw bigger tantrums because it works. Look at the pattern. The late night posting sprees, the public fights with Elon Musk, Bruce Springsteen, his own supporters, sitting members of Congress, the racist AI videos, the threats to arrest, deport, and denaturalize anyone who criticizes him. This is what happens when reactive behavior gets rewarded instead of checked. And here's the part that genuinely scares me. We've normalized it. When I saw the Springsteen post, I didn't gasp. I didn't call my friends. I just moved past it like, oh, there he goes again. Like it's weather. Like it's just part of the background noise of American life now. When did that become normal?
Hello, friend.
But let's zoom out for a second. Because it's not just about what this does to our domestic institutions. It's about what this does to our standing in the world. In June, Pew Research released a survey of U.S. allies. The results are brutal. Majorities in almost every country surveyed described Trump as arrogant and dangerous. More than half the people in France, the United Kingdom, Germany, South Korea, and Japan, our closest allies, have no confidence in Trump's leadership in world affairs. 15 out of 24 countries surveyed downgraded their rating of the United States. Let that sink in. Our closest allies, the countries we've defended, traded with, built security partnerships with for decades, don't trust us anymore. And why would they? Imagine you're the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, and you're trying to negotiate a long-term trade agreement with the U.S., and in the middle of negotiations, you see the president post racist AI videos mocking members of Congress, threaten to deport Elon Musk over a budget disagreement, call his own supporters weaklings in an all-caps meltdown, and fire career prosecutors for not indicting his political enemies. What do you think? Can you trust this person to honor a 10-year trade deal? Can you rely on them in a security crisis? Can you count on them to act strategically instead of reactively? A former U.S. ambassador to Bosnia said it best. Quote, President Trump made that a tougher job. It was very hard to anticipate what he was going to do next. And here's a story that captures it perfectly. In July, during a NATO summit, a European defense minister reportedly told a U.S. counterpart that their government was now treating commitments from Washington the same way they'd treat commitments from an unstable regime. Write everything down, get it witnessed, and have a backup plan for when it falls apart. That's not how you talk about your most important ally. That's how you talk about someone you can't trust. Chatham House, a UK think tank, reports that allies in Europe and the Pacific are now questioning their security arrangements with the US. Why? Because we feel like an increasingly unpredictable partner. We're not just losing respect. We're losing trust. The kind of trust that takes decades to build and only seconds to destroy. And here's the thing. This isn't about whether Trump's policies are good or bad. I'm not litigating tariffs or trade deals or military strategy. This is about whether other countries believe we're stable enough to be a reliable partner. And when the president is posting AI deepfakes at midnight, threatening to arrest mayors, and calling voters stupid on election day, the answer is increasingly no. The Wall Street Journal reported in August on rising global skepticism toward American leadership, citing erratic and retaliatory governance as a key concern. Not bad policy, erratic behavior. We've gone from leader of the free world to that friend you're worried about leaving alone with your car keys.
Hello, friend.
Now, let me be very clear about something. I'm not saying Donald Trump is a bad person. I'm not even saying he's a bad president in terms of policy outcomes. That's for you to decide based on what you care about. What I am saying is this. Regardless of who occupies the Oval Office, there are behaviors that degrade the office itself. And we should care about that even if we agree with the person's policies. Because here's the thing about institutions. They outlast individuals. Trump will be gone in 4 years, or sooner if something happens. But the precedent we set, the norms we abandon, those stick around. If we accept that a president can publicly pressure the DOJ to indict political opponents, what happens when the next president does it? And the one after that? If we accept that a president can fire military leaders for insufficient personal loyalty, what stops future presidents from turning the armed forces into a protection squad? If we accept that a president can threaten to revoke citizenship or deport critics for exercising their First Amendment rights, where does that power end? I'm not catastrophizing. I'm asking, what are we building here? Because every time we shrug and say, well, that's just how he is, we're teaching the next person that this behavior is acceptable. We're lowering the bar for what we expect from the office. And eventually the bar gets so low that we can't even see it anymore. So here's where I land. I don't care if you voted for Trump. I don't care if you think his policies are great or terrible. I don't care if you think he's good for the economy, bad for democracy, or somewhere in between. What I care about is this. Are we okay with the President of the United States behaving like a toddler? Because that's what this is. Temper tantrums when criticized, lashing out at enemies, real and imagined, threatening people who disagree, posting mean videos, calling people names, having public meltdowns at 12:38 in the morning. If your teenager behaved this way, you'd take away their phone and make them talk to someone. If your coworker behaved this way, HR would get involved. If your mayor behaved this way, you'd vote them out. But because it's Trump, we've just decided it's part of the deal. The price of admission. That's just how he is. And I'm asking, when did we decide that was acceptable? Not acceptable for Trump specifically. Acceptable for anyone holding this office. Because here's the substitution test. If Joe Biden posted AI videos of Ron DeSantis in handcuffs, would you be okay with it? If Kamala Harris threatened to deport critics, would you shrug and say, that's just politics? If Barack Obama had called his own supporters weaklings for criticizing, would you defend it? I don't think you would. And I don't think you should. This isn't about left or right. It's about whether we have standards for the office itself, or whether we've abandoned them entirely because the policies align with what we want. And here's what scares me. I think we've already abandoned them. I think we've normalized behavior that would have been disqualifying 10 years ago. Hell, 5 years ago. And I don't know how we come back from that. Because once you accept that the president can act like a toddler, once you defend it, excuse it, laugh it off because you like the tax cuts or the judges or the immigration enforcement, you've set a new baseline. And the next person will push it even further. And before you know it, we're not asking, is this behavior acceptable for a president? We're asking, is this behavior legal? And those are very, very different questions.
Hello, friend.
So here's my genuine question for you. And I mean this. I don't have the answer. What behaviors are non-negotiable for the President of the United States? Not what policies do you want or which party do you support, but what behaviors should disqualify someone from holding this office, regardless of whether you agree with their agenda. Can a president threaten to arrest political opponents? Can they publicly pressure prosecutors to indict critics? Can they post deepfake videos of predecessors in jail? Can they call American voters stupid for voting differently? Can they fire military leaders for insufficient personal loyalty? Where's the line? Because if we don't have one, if the answer is anything is acceptable as long as I get the policies I want, then we're not electing presidents anymore. We're crowning emperors. And emperors don't answer to anyone. And the last time I checked, that's not what this country was supposed to be about. Now get off my lawn.
Hello, friend.